Is it? This is an extremely long book. I believe it's over 1,200 pages. So we're going to see how much you can get through in the next 2 weeks, but I think this will be a recurring, we'll have to bring it up down the line when you eventually finish this book. I'm sorry, I'm throwing something so huge at you. But I need you to read this book.
You sentenced me. You gave me a sentence. You said, and you shall spend 30 lifetimes reading this book. Hey, Ryan here from Recommendations Required. As you can see, it has been nearly 2 months since our last episode, and I just wanted to give a quick update. There's just been some stuff going on with my family that has just kind of slowed everything down. There's also a technical issue with this episode where the video wasn't working, and we were trying to fix that for a while and weren't able to get it. But we are back on schedule. Thank you so much to our new editor, David, who's been helping us out. And yeah, we have a nice episode for you guys today, and we're just excited to get these episodes back up and running, and we thank you for your patience. Both of us are really excited to kind of get these episodes back and going. The other quick little disclaimer I want to give is we do kind of mention some things about suicide, and so if that is triggering for you, or if that is something that you rather not listen to, you can go ahead and skip to the second half of the podcast or skip this episode entirely, and you'll have the next episode in 2 weeks. But yeah, thank you guys so much for your patience. Thanks for tuning in, and yeah, hope you guys enjoy. Thanks. Welcome back to Recommendations Required, a podcast where two friends try to find their next obsession, and maybe so will you. I'm Ryan Mione.
I'm Glenn Brown.
And we are on episode 10. 1-0,
yeah.
Double digits.
It seems wild. Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
I don't know. I feel, man, it doesn't feel like 10. It feels like 5 to me. But yeah, I guess we're flying by.
I think also we did like a couple episodes back to back, and now we're in the schedule of doing them every 2 weeks,
which feels better.
And I do have a opener.
Oh, perfect.
So
Sweet.
I thought,
yeah, let's do it.
So have you heard of the website Will You Press the Button?
Will you press the button? I don't think so. No.
It's a really, really simple concept. I'm not coming up with any of these. It's just a website that you refresh. And it's pretty simple. If you press the button, it will give you
It's like a would you rather kind of thing?
Kind of, but it's more of if you press the button, blank will happen, but
something bad will happen.
Do you press the button?
Okay, got you. Okay.
So this is at random. This was the first one that I set up. So we'll go through a couple of these and just see.
Okay. Yeah, hit me.
Will you press the button? You have the ability to time travel.
Okay.
But you can only visit a year once, meaning that you can't go back to when you came from.
No,
absolutely.
God, no.
Yes.
No.
I think this will be interesting because, stop. And then it tells you what percentage. 52% of people press the button.
That's wild.
That's insane.
That's wild.
That's crazy.
48%
of people have something to live for.
That's
how I read that.
Yeah, I feel, I mean, not to get dark, but I feel like you're only pressing that button if you got nothing else to do in your life, you know?
This is not as funny as I thought it would be.
I love the first one. The first one was good.
You get to become the U.S. president, but the country will never enter a troublesome war. That seems great. The country will... Oh, I read that wrong.
Okay.
The country will enter a troublesome war.
No, I do not want to be the president of the United States. No way.
No button president. Okay, what percentage do you think people press the button?
Yes?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of people who might actually see it as an upside, like they'd love to play war. So I'm going to go 55% would press the button.
29.
Really? Okay.
They give me a little bit more hope in humanity.
That gives me hope. Yeah, I love that.
Okay. Food tastes 10 times better.
Okay.
But you are constantly really hungry.
No, those are both negatives. I don't want food to taste even better. That just means I'm going to eat even more.
I guess I'm thinking,
and then I'm also always hungry.
So
I'm gonna be on my 600-pound life tomorrow.
Yeah, I guess I thought like, if you're still hungry, then you're not eating enough. But it doesn't say that. You would just be hungry.
Yeah, all the time. No, thank you.
All right, what percentage of that do you think people said yes to?
I'm gonna go like 40.
50.
50. It's a 50-50 split on that one. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm kind of.
about that.
I think part of it is I'm pretty content with my life. Like I
Yeah,
don't really want
yeah.
to throw
Throw a
more
wrench in it.
things
Yeah, I don't-
to do and figure out.
Yeah, got enough on our plates.
Okay, you become the sexiest person alive, but
Okay,
you have 3 hours to enjoy it.
you have 3 hours to enjoy
Does
it.
that mean you die in 3 hours?
I don't know, or because if you just return back to your normal self in 3 hours, then it's like okay,
Okay, if that's the case,
that's not even a negative.
I'd
you know,
say
it's just
sure.
like oh, you get 3 hours of fun. But if you die, I'm assuming it's got to be you die.
Okay,
Um,
let's say it's
and
not die.
Of
because,
course, no.
Okay, let's say it's not die. Let's say
Okay.
you just go back.
You just go back to normal. I mean, sure, I guess. I don't know.
So
It's kind of a zero-sum game because I feel like for most people, the answer to that question is like, "Oh, cool, I can go clubbing and just like
Yeah,
get
okay,
all the
here's-
people I
do you know where
want."
my
And
head-
I'm like, "No, I don't want any of that."
do you know where my head immediately went was, okay, as long as I don't look like me, I just look like the sexiest person alive.
Sure.
For 3 hours,
Well, I mean, I would just still
I'm
look
gonna
like me.
take. I don't want to play this game anymore. No, wait. So what I would do is for those 3 hours, I would take so many naked pictures,
Oh my god.
set up an OnlyFans.
Oh wow.
Done. As
Make
long
bank.
as it doesn't look like me. If it's like a
What? Okay, hold on.
okay,
What if you look like a real person in the world that is currently the sexiest person,
nah, that's
and now you're like
that feels a little sketchy.
catfishing people?
Yeah, no. It would only have to be like
It has to be
And
this
imagine, like, a-
somehow non-existent person.
exactly.
Okay.
Because I'd be
So
like,
you're
cool,
looking
like
for the money grab on this.
that
one.
was like the first thing because it's like what am I gonna do for 3 hours as the sexiest person? Like we're both married.
Set up an
We're
OnlyFans
not.
account.
I'm like set an OnlyFans. Like
Okay.
and it's not me.
Okay.
and it's what however many hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. And
That's a move. Okay.
yeah.
Fair
I don't-
enough. That's a good move.
Yeah,
Yeah. I like that.
I'm gonna say yeah. I'll press it. 56.
Would
Here's-
press it?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like you need the clarification on what 3 hours to enjoy means.
Does that mean you die? You become one of the most recognized artists in the world, but
Okay.
you get color blindness.
Art. What kind of artist? Just any artist?
I guess you could pick.
But you get color blindness?
I would say 100%. Yeah.
You would press the button? What,
If it's
sorry, what was
blind-
it? You're the most
You
recognized
become one
artist?
of the most. Oh, but do you really want to? Do you want to be the most recognized artist
yeah,
in the
see, I
world?
don't
Like
know
that
about
might
that.
be even a negative.
I'm like, I don't know if I'm in the minority here, but I like don't want to be famous, if that makes sense.
as we start a podcast.
As we start. But that's not what this podcast is about.
No,
you
no,
know,
no,
like
it's not.
this podcast is about us, like
It's about
setting
friendship.
aside some time to hang out with each
Yes,
other. You
exactly.
know, like
100%.
I'm not looking for this podcast to reach like billions of views
Yeah.
in a week or whatever. You
Yeah.
know, like if 5 people watch this, I'm perfectly happy with
Which
that.
like I do want to touch on that for a second
Mm-hmm.
because we've been releasing YouTube Shorts and the YouTube clips and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and like, okay, maybe what we're getting is not a ton, but like we're getting like 1,500, 4,000, 5,000 views
yeah,
on some of these
couple
shorts.
thousand.
Like
some shorts.
I was telling Jackie, and she's like, "Whoa, that's kind of cool." And I was like, "It's really annoying though that the one project I don't care about getting big is the
getting
one that's
big.
getting some
I
traction."
feel like that's
but I
how
also
it works, though.
exactly,
Yeah,
and I think,
yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, that's really interesting," but also, like, I think I rather have that project, like this project, get big because I don't care if it does, as
Yeah,
opposed to something
yeah.
I'm desperately wanting to
It's
get big.
it's something fun where you're not like stressing about it constantly.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, I feel like I don't want to be this famous person, you know. So
Yeah, no,
like I'd rather just be in my shop woodworking for like 20 people who are
Yeah.
constantly ordering stuff. You know.
I might.
You
I
do it?
might.
I don't think
It's-
I'd press a button.
It's hard because like I think being the most recognized artist, it just opens up things.
I feel like it comes with a lot of criticism though.
Yeah, that's
like
fair.
you just suddenly have so many people hating everything you do.
Yeah,
You know.
because it doesn't say you're the best artist. You're just the most
The
recognized.
most recognized. Ooh, it could be negative.
Mm.
But you know, like even like I'm sure like the only artist I can pull right now is Banksy, but I'm sure like Banksy will put out works of art and people will be like, oh, I could have done that in 5 minutes, and like people just hate on everything he does.
Yeah.
You know, like
Are you someone that like subscribes to that idea of art that it's like the art should be something I can't do.
No, I don't think so. I think good art takes like dedication. I think that's like a key ingredient in a lot of good art. But I don't really like the argument when people say like, "Oh, I could have made that in 5 minutes," because it's like, well, then why didn't you?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they chose to do it, which is why it's there and good art. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
It's not the fact that how long it took. It's just the fact that they did it.
Yeah. And
You
there
know?
was that there was a piece that's like literally just a toilet with the signature of the artist. Like he didn't add anything to it.
Okay.
And it was literally to prove that point. And like it was going to sell for millions of dollars. Okay. I don't know all the exact details, but a lot of money.
Yeah.
Someone came in and broke it and like shattered it, and everyone was like freaking out. So the artist just got another toilet and signed it. And it was just like, it was just
I
like
love
very,
this.
I was like, oh, it's
I
so
love
good.
this.
It's so good. But a nice segue, speaking of art and
Okay.
opinions
Okay.
and strong opinions.
Okay. We're doing this.
I gave you a movie to watch.
Yes. Yeah.
And I have a feeling that it didn't do it for you. But I'm interested. I'm like, out of all the things I've suggested, I'm the most okay if you're like, this was trash. I don't think
Okay.
you think it's trash,
Okay.
but I'm just gonna shut up and I'm gonna just like throw it to you.
Okay. So you recommended to me
Yes.
Everything Everywhere All at Once,
Yes.
which is a movie that came out this year, I believe,
Mhm.
recently. And before you had brought it to the podcast, I had heard a bunch of people say, like, people were like reviewing the movies of 2022 and being like, oh, you were good, you were bad. And every time it was everything, everywhere, all at once.
We'll just call it everything.
Well, okay,
Maybe.
everything. Everything was always like, you were the masterpiece. Like everyone
Yeah.
was like, this was the best movie ever created, you know?
Yeah.
And I went in being like, I can't have that expectation for it.
And I told you.
Yeah. Like I'm not, I feel like I go into movies like with high expectations because of what everyone says.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do that. You know, I'm going to go in fresh, just see what I think.
Yeah.
So you also recommended a YouTube video
To watch after it.
to watch after it.
Yes.
And it was like a 15-minute
Yeah.
short video on just a guy kind of talking about his interpretation of the movie, and most likely what probably like the creator of the movie was trying to get at. I'm gonna start with just the movie.
Got it.
If that's
cool.
fair.
Yeah. And to be fair, I don't think that I'm not saying that the YouTube video is something to like. I think it's great to assist you
Sure.
alongside.
Sure.
the content.
Yeah.
It's a dessert to go with this meal.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
It won't fix the meal though if you didn't like it.
Wow, I really don't know where to start. It's
just-
kind of tough. If you have leading questions, go for it. But I okay. I had the general plot in my head, right? You provided me like the intro plot of what this movie was, which did not represent what this movie is at all.
No. I did that on purpose.
Yeah, which is fair. So I don't know how much I want to dive into the actual plot or not. I guess I have
Listen,
to.
yeah, okay.
If
If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, like just go watch the movie.
Yes.
If you
Pause
because
this podcast, go watch it.
there's no way that we can talk about this film without spoiling everything.
Yes.
Everywhere all at once.
Yeah. This is gonna be spoiler city. I'm so sorry if you're not gonna watch it at all and you don't want it spoiled for some reason, just skip halfway through this episode. I'm sorry, we can't
This is
do
the
it.
podcast. Like
This
we're
is the
gonna spoil
podcast.
things.
Yes, you need to do these things if you don't want things spoiled.
Exactly.
So I wasn't expecting full on action movie,
Right.
but I expected more action movie than what was there.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So this movie starts off with how you described it. It's a family. There's a dad, a mom, a daughter, and I guess the mom's dad.
Yeah.
That are running this laundromat. It's very your classic like immigrant comes to America and is like trying to start a life for themselves and like build up this family off of business and stuff like that. They are currently being audited by the IRS, so they're like going through all these receipts, and that's very stressful and it's crazy and all that stuff. At some point, they're going and it's very clear like everyone in this family is having problems.
Yeah.
The daughter hates the mother because she's
I would say the daughter is like rubbing up against what the mom is trying to do, which is stay aligned with her culture while also living in America, while the daughter is much more like America is my culture,
which is a very classic story. I mean, the next movie I'm thinking of is Red Panda.
Yeah.
That was a movie recently. Similar themes there. You have a traditional parent and a daughter who's reaching being a teenager and wanting to rebel and be her own thing.
Yeah.
The mom is kind of the main character, and it's also the dad is filing for divorce.
Yeah, which the mom doesn't know about. Oh, I get chills just thinking about that.
Which the mom like figures out, and then like the mom's dad, the grandfather, is also like extremely traditional and over the top with his daughter, that whole thing. So she's just basically this like nexus of like everyone hates her basically.
Yeah. She can't do anything right for anyone.
Nothing can go right, which leads into the plot of this movie. So they're going to the IRS office to go over paperwork with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Craziest casting ever.
She is nuts in this movie.
How good?
Like
though? How good is she?
She is amazing in this movie. The acting is so good. Okay.
So good.
But at one point, the father in the story, her husband.
Yeah.
All the family relations I'm gonna pinpoint around the mom, the main character. So her husband like switches personalities, and you find out that a him from an alternate reality like jumps into his body and is like controlling him, and he's like from a reality where he's like kind of
part of this organization.
He's part of an organization who that universe first figured out how to jump universes. And like the concept is that they can jump into themselves in a different universe.
Yep.
And they instantly gain all of that person's memories and abilities.
Yeah.
And they can also jump back.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit,
and it's almost like the idea too is like you can jump from person to like you almost have to make a pathway.
Yes. So
it's like a web.
So if you want to like go find the reality where you learned kung fu, for example, you need to like jump to like the closest reality, which is the reality where maybe just like one decision in your life is different.
Yeah.
So it's like everything is really close to being the same, but like you made this one decision,
couple decisions here and there,
where like it just changed slightly, and then it like slingshots you into a different reality where you learn a bunch of stuff and then come back or whatever. So she like at one point jumps, learns kung fu, and then comes back, and now she's like able to fight people and stuff. So the core concept of this movie is wild and amazing, and I love it.
Yeah,
it's so cool. I quickly got overwhelmed with the silliness.
Yes.
It was too much for me.
Yeah.
And there were points where I'm like, I don't know if I want to watch this anymore.
Yeah.
It was like,
oh, absolutely.
I was like so invested in these characters and like the action to some points and stuff like that. And then it would just be like the most ridiculous thing would happen. And I'd be like, wait, what? Was it
the hot dog fingers or the butt plug scene?
Okay, so those were the major two. Every time, okay, I gotta explain this now. So the concept of how you jump from, they have like headgear that like jumps them between universes. But in order to jump to a universe, you need to do something that is so weird in your universe, but normal in that one to like jump you there. So like at one point, there's a bunch of guys who are trying to like land their butt on a butt plug, like in
or like I think it was like an object too. Like they were just trying to put
it was like a trophy that looked like a butt plug or whatever, because that would be normal in a universe they were trying to like jump to, but weird here.
Yep.
And there's just all sorts of stuff like that. It's like
and they
weird, wacky stuff going on. And there's another universe where like everyone in that universe has hot dogs for fingers
Yes.
instead of normal fingers.
That's so,
And it's-
every scene from that universe is so unsettling.
It was just so jarring. Like,
Yeah.
which I understand later is the point, but
yeah.
as I'm watching the movie,
Mhm.
I was just like so thrown by it.
Yep.
To be fair, very entertaining. I was like,
You don't.
I was
lose interest.
interested in everything,
Yeah.
but it felt overwhelming at
Yeah.
the same time. So I really liked the like shots and cinematography of the movie. Like,
It's beautiful.
they did really beautiful things, especially like jumping between the universes. You know, it would like
Yeah.
flash the person's face in like different scenes and stuff like
Mhm.
that.
Which, side note, I want to put a pin in that for a second. Their special effects team was 5 people.
That's wild. That's
Like,
absolutely insane. The special effects in this movie are
It's
off the
incredible,
rails.
and it's
crazy.
if you watch how they do it, they do like very like cheap is the wrong word, but like not.
Budget friendly.
Yeah, I guess I
Yeah.
would, like budget and time friendly,
Mm-hmm.
but like the special effects are insane.
It's
And
crazy.
It's just like
it's crazy. This movie is like a beautiful piece of art to look at.
yes,
For sure.
Yeah.
Like every single shot is
Mhm.
giving you so much like color and fun and like wild things
Yeah.
happening.
Yep.
It's great to look at. The silliness and some of the action just like tore me out of that sometimes, and I didn't like that.
Mhm. Which do you have like an action scene for you?
Yeah,
Not
pretty,
not
pretty,
connect.
pretty much almost every action scene like pulled me a little bit out of it, because I don't know, I'm kind of a stickler for rules, if that makes sense.
Did you grow up on kung fu movies at all? Was that something you ever?
No,
Okay,
I did.
because
Which
'cause after the
this
first
is
scene-
heavily influenced.
exactly,
Yeah.
and that was the thing for me was like the first scene. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel right at home.
See, okay,
Like, and I get someone who's not used to that style
yeah.
and like not to throw you under the bus, but like used to more Marvel action,
Mm-hmm.
which is much more cut and dry.
Yes. Yeah.
This is
so
it's more stylized.
So it is very much more stylized. It's definitely heavy kung fu influences going
Yeah.
on here. Which, I mean, the action was still fun. Like,
Mhm.
right? It was
100%.
still like a good time to be watching. But like, I get really pulled out of action sequences when it's like, okay, I can jump on board with she jumped to a different universe, learned kung fu in the matter of a second, and jumped back.
Yeah.
I'll believe you on that one. I'll ride with you. Like, there's like that inherently is totally wild. But then when you jump back and you know kung fu and you can just extend your pinky and someone goes flying through a couple walls, I'm like, okay, that's not physically possible. Like, now you're just doing stuff that's just outrageously silly and just breaks the laws of physics altogether. Which I know this movie is crazy and wacky and like everything's breaking the laws of physics.
Yeah.
But like, I like when there's like some grounding to it where I can get on board with that. You know.
So okay, I know you have more to say, and
Sure.
I'm gonna let you get there, but I want
Yeah.
to stop. I want to pull the car over for
Yeah,
a second.
sure.
because
sure.
you, I think this is a perfect film for you to start on the kind of films that I'm going to be bringing to you down the road.
Okay.
And I think it becomes this piece where films are not trying to connect us to reality by making realistic creative decisions. It's how, like, what are we trying to communicate? Like, this film how do I explain this? Like, this film uses every creative decision to tell a story. Like, the kung fu-ness, yes, it's also connecting to their heritage. It's connecting to this wild showmanship as well. And I know, like, especially with you watching the video, like, understanding the randomness.
Yeah.
But like, when there's a film that's this well crafted, when they're making a decision to make you feel uncomfortable, like, that's on purpose.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
intentional.
think that's something that, like, this film, it engages enough of that funness to it, but then it also says, like, we're gonna make you feel uncomfortable and we're gonna push you into a place, and that's the point. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
like, I don't think films should, if your film is supposed to feel hyper realistic, because I think that is like what you specifically as a movie watcher are drawn to, is I want to see a cool concept executed in reality. that's what I often feel is like your draw. To
it
films.
doesn't even. I want to push back against that because it doesn't even need to be rooted in our reality or reality in general, I guess. Because like I will fully get on board with like a totally different universe with totally different rules and totally different everything. You know,
just want
right?
to know the rules though.
But I need to know the rules, and they set this up like it is our world.
Yeah.
And our world's physics are happening.
So then that's okay. So I love that. Here's
know?
what I would say then is that your rules don't exist within the movie; they exist outside of the movie. So when you're watching a film, it's important to look out for those rules. But the rules are red represents this color represents this. When they do a camera movement, it represents this. And so it's more that you're reading a book as opposed to like if something feels out of place and doesn't agree with the rules. If it's a bad filmmaker, it's because they got lazy and they like dropped the ball.
Yeah.
But a good filmmaker is gonna
there for a reason.
It's you're supposed to notice like why do we keep seeing blank, or why was it so easy for her to do the pinky thing? Like if you're having those questions in these kind of films where there's actual thought put into it.
Yeah.
That's where I go like the way you're thinking about it is awesome. And obviously you don't have to like this. This is not me trying to convince you to like it. But I think with these kind of films, like,
I mean, you're just expressing why you like it.
Yeah, exactly. But no, but I think it's because there's like a paradigm shift that I want you to experience with film. That is, the rules are not in the film. The rules are what the director is saying. And how do we read those? Because to this, like this, out of all the films I want to suggest to you, is more connected in the actual film. There's like another film I want to suggest to you that is not that. You need to know the rules outside of the film to even understand anything that's going in.
Okay.
Like, Rubber.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
none of
wild.
that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But if you understand the rules that the director is trying to communicate outside of the film, all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's about consumerism and it's about the audience and it's about spectacle. So I don't know, like not to go on a whole tangent to try and convince you, because you can not like this film. That's fine.
No,
but I think to your point too, it's like I wasn't laughing the whole time. There were like scenes I'm like, this is the raccoon scene. I'm like, this is
every
pushing.
raccoon scene is so wild. I just
pushing it.
It's just okay.
Ratatouille.
Like I said, I was engaged and enjoying everything that was happening. Just some of it made me feel so uncomfortable, and I know it's on purpose.
Yeah.
But like. They throw a raccoon scene in there where it's basically Ratatouille, but it's a raccoon instead of a rat.
Great.
So there's just this huge raccoon on this dude's head.
And then she jumps on his head, and then she's helping him run.
Oh my gosh. Like,
but I think that
it's so buck wild is the only way I can describe
100%.
it. So, I mean, we could be on this movie for so long, but I kind of want to jump into
one last thing before you do. How dope is it though when the daughter shows up? Like when she just starts like making things.
Oh,
like,
so cool.
It's just like her, or she has that like that click thing.
Yes.
Oh, I get chills thinking about it.
I want to get to, that's what I kind of want to get to. So we find out that our villain of this story.
Don't they have a name for her? I can't remember.
It's like Joka Dotu or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like a two-word name. It starts with a J. I can't remember it. But you find out that the main villain is someone who's from the reality that discovered the universe jumping. And basically when they first discover it, they pushed this person to like dive into as many universes as possible and like learn everything they could, and they pushed her too far. She broke and basically became like disconnected from any one reality.
Her consciousness existed within all realities.
Yes, she basically became a hive mind. That's my like best correlation to that. She basically became a hive mind where like she could tap into any reality at will, no tech needed. Like she was just like.
Which shatters her humanity.
Which shatters her humanity, and she basically just becomes this entity. Yeah. And you find out that it's the daughter.
Yeah. It happens pretty soon, like pretty quick in this film.
That's revealed pretty soon. But you find out that like actually the main character, the mom, she's the one who discovered this technology in that universe and died, and then her daughter got pushed to like really reinvent it and like dive
push
into it.
into her mom's shoes.
Yes. Yes, which is a core theme in the movie. So you find out that she's the one that can just like jump to realities, and basically she is creating this black hole that which it's like it's
a donut.
It's a joke. It's a bagel.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
It's
right.
a joke that is also like this crucial, important thing to the movie, and it's wild. But she basically took everything and shoved it into a singular spot, which creates like a space-time singularity, which is an everything bagel, and it looks like a bagel. It's wild. But she is basically all of the good guys. Are under the impression that she is creating this thing to destroy all realities.
Yep.
When really, she reveals that she created this thing to like end her existence because she was like sick of existing in all of these realities and wanted to build something that would destroy her.
I'm just getting goosebumps.
It's good. It's
so
good. It's so good. And eventually, the mom, who has now jumped a couple realities, right? She is basically given the ultimatum, like, you need to kill your daughter in this reality so that the bad daughter, the bad version, can't jump here anymore. Yeah. You know? And she doesn't do it, obviously, and decides, no, I want to understand my daughter, so I'll break myself, and basically pushes herself till she breaks and becomes a hive mind and exists in all realities.
But then she warps it in the other way of like turning that into a positive.
Yes. So she then takes it, understands where her like uber powerful version of her daughter is coming from, and like basically convinces her to bring back her humanity. Yeah. And like pulls her back from the brink. Very powerful ending scene. They pretty much end up in a different reality.
No, it's the same reality, but
it's a reality where they just went home from the IRS office. So I mean, it doesn't matter what universe they landed in, but
I love how if you took the first scene and the last scene, there's no remnants that anything weird happened.
Yes,
like the last scene just ends kind of in a normal way, but it's so
basically this whole movie culminates with the mom and the daughter essentially like rectifying the situation and saying like, we are all powerful beings that could be anywhere we want to be, but I'm going to choose to be right here with you right now, which is like so powerful.
So good.
It's great. It's so good. So they have this really, and like, these are the scenes that I loved. You know,
my gosh.
These like grounded scenes where you're seeing these characters like just be so intimate with each other is just
the randomness. I think is very much like the sugar to coat something that is really powerful and meaningful.
Which, to be fair, I think without the silliness, this movie would be so immensely dark and depressing. Yes. It would be crazy.
100%.
Like, it would be unwatchable.
The stuff that the daughter talks about, if you take out of context and you cut all the silliness and you just put her in there, you're like, holy crap.
This movie without the silliness would send so many people into a downward spiral. Yeah. It would be nuts. Yeah. So, review of the movie, okay? It was not at all what I was expecting, and I wouldn't say this was like my favorite movie of the year, blew me away by any means, but it was a good movie. Like I really enjoyed watching it. I highly recommend everyone see it. Like it is a must-watch movie in my opinion. Even if you hate every single second of it, it is a movie you should see. Yes, it is a movie you need to experience.
He has arrived, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, this is a movie you need to experience for sure. Definitely see it.
Yeah. It's also probably a movie that I don't know if I'll ever watch it again. One watch is a lot.
One watch is a lot, man. It's a long movie too.
Yeah, it's
it asks a lot of you, but if you're willing to ride with it, So if it's okay with you, I'd like to talk about my interpretation of the movie without the YouTube video.
Great, please.
Okay. So I finished this movie and I'm trying to digest it, and my conclusion of this movie was very different from the YouTube video.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I mean, it's close, but like without the key aspect. So I came out of this movie thinking, okay, you have this teenager who's rebelling against their parents, obviously, but also feels like there is an infinite amount of possibilities for what their future can be.
Yeah.
You know, you hit this age where like suddenly you need to go to college or not go to college. You need to go to like a trade school or you need to start in the workforce. And it feels like there is an endless amount of roads in front of you and you don't know which way to go.
Yeah.
It feels like this nexus point where whatever you decide at the age of 18, once you graduate high school, is going to like launch you on your entire life. And it feels crippling sometimes.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the mom is like regretting all the decisions she's made in her life.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's good.
So like the daughter is seeing like, oh no, I don't want to end up there regretting everything I've ever done. So I like now there's even more pressure of I need to make this decision and make it quickly and make it right.
Yeah.
And that can be so overwhelming at that age. And I like very quickly saw the like Bagel thing and her own self-destruction as like I'm gonna commit suicide as a way out. Like I can't handle this. Like I feel like I don't know suicide statistics, but I'm assuming that age is a pretty high on the bell curve where it's just it feels like so much pressure's on you.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what I thought it was saying there. And eventually the mom comes to her and is like, it's okay. You don't need to know what you're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. You don't need to have all the answers. We can just be here.
Yeah.
So powerful.
Which
Loved
I think all that's true. I think that's all like.
Then the YouTube video throws this other aspect on top of that.
Which I think once I watched it, I was like, oh my gosh.
Beautiful.
It just like
it's so
brings
good,
it
so
together.
accurate. So the YouTube video.
My understanding was the YouTube brought in this whole idea of generation and technology and the internet.
The internet is like this core factor.
And that was the thing for me. Like, I think I came to a similar conclusion that you did. But then when he brought the internet aspect up, I was like, oh my gosh, that clicks. That makes sense. But this idea that this teenager has access to multiple realities all at once, which we do through TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, social media.
You're seeing so many other people's lives. It's like accessing these entirely different
you can
realities.
project yourself into those lives. And so there becomes this piece of like getting lost in this, not metaverse, but there's these other realities that exist all along the world. And like, side note, like Jackie and I just finished watching this documentary called, I think it's like Xanax Take Your Pills or something on Netflix. Like, I don't necessarily suggest it. It's a fine watch, but like they were talking about like for the first time in our entire human history, like we know what's happening all around the world at all times, live, and like
everything, everywhere, all at once.
Yeah, and like and I was thinking too, I'm like, when World War II was happening, like that was when the Vietnam War happened. That was the first time that we got to see like video of a war like happening, not just like aftermath.
And that's why the whole country turned against the war.
Exactly. And then you have our version of Ukraine and Russia. This is the first time that we're getting live stream like social media posts of what's happening in that second.
Yeah. Like you can literally watch live the war happening.
And so you have this mom who is being pulled by her older generation that she needs to live a certain way, and she's trying to figure out who she is. And then you have her daughter, which has that same pull, but then is also equally being pulled a completely opposite direction of these multiple realities. And the mom is stepping into that technology and actually guiding her daughter, as opposed to what I think most of us, especially in our especially our age, that experience of saying our parents didn't really understand the depth of the internet. And so we had to kind of figure it out, and look how that's going.
I mean, the YouTube video is basically it's basically the whole movie's the internet, and like the silliness and wackiness is the internet. Like the internet is so extreme and over the top. Like
even the idea, like when you were saying that like you need to do something really random, there's almost this feeling of like being so random and out there to be noticed.
Exactly. I feel like that's what YouTube culture is.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm going to go up on this crane and drop a car onto a balloon, and we're going to film it in slow-mo and see if it explodes. It's like, what? Like, okay, I guess we're doing this. Like, that's what the internet
of people
is.
Will watch.
Yeah, and that's how you get famous.
And then those people watching are millions of other universes.
Yes.
And so it's just,
it's just like wild. Like I think I said that it's like even from a baking show, like where we're gonna cook this recipe, like even something like that needs to be like wild and insane.
Yeah.
All the way, like we're gonna bake. I don't know.
Well, there's like
we're gonna bake cardboard into this cake and it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like
we're gonna make a life-size car.
Yeah, even that needs to be so over the top and wild and everything that like that's like the analogy of the silliness in the movie.
And then even with the side of like it's random, but then in the reality, there's these things that are happening in this universe that are super normal, but seem super bizarre to us.
To other people,
the hot dog fingers, the raccoon. You're like, what the hell am I watching? And then it's like, if once you apply that internet ideology to the whole film, the whole thing just sinks and just makes sense. Yeah, and it just is like, oh,
everything changes.
This film just perfectly executes what it's trying to execute.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good. I feel like this is a topic that's been hanging in the air, and no one's been like approaching in a meaningful way. Of like, I feel like our generation, and I mean especially the generation like right after us, like Gen Z.
Don't even ask me.
Gen Z. Okay, we're like millennials, so I think Gen Z is right after us.
We're like kind of 1 foot in each.
Yeah,
honestly.
we're like right in between those two. But like we have this access to the internet that is like wildly untamed and who we have no guidance for either. Like we have no one telling us how to navigate these wild, insane things that are the internet.
And I might say maybe the most cancelable thing ever for just a second. I know. But like there is such a crisis right now with people and their identity, who they are, and trying to figure that out. Yeah. And I like, I'm not gonna make any political like stances on anything, but I mean, just look around. People are trying to figure out who they are. Yeah. That is the number one focus.
Regardless of your ideology on any subject. No, exactly. Everyone is trying to figure that out.
And I think that the internet has intensified not even just the need, but the options. Yeah. Because now there is endless categories and there's endless realities of what you can decide.
What you can be.
What you can be. And again, I'm not trying to make like a political statement, but I'm just saying like I think this film dives into that in a way that doesn't.
Yeah, and it's inherently overwhelming.
It doesn't divide anyone, but it's saying, hey, when you're being told by 100,000 people every day what they are and what you should be, what's right and what's wrong, and trying to figure out how do I live in this? What's that space? Like, that's incredibly overwhelming.
I can't remember where I heard this, but someone said, like, there was like a study done where due to like the news and the internet, people of our generation are constantly in a state of fight or flight because we're hearing devastating news all the time that our brains are not capable of handling. Like it's too much information and it overloads our brains constantly and it's super unhealthy. And that's probably like a root cause of like the stress and anxiety that lives in our generation is because we are receiving too much information all at once.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think then, like you said, there are scenes in this that are incredibly overwhelming. Not disturbing.
No,
just like this is
overwhelming.
This is a lot of sensory overload for me, and
which
for
is
me,
accurate.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like once you apply this thing, it's like, oh, that makes sense of why they're trying to make me feel this, and it's fun. Yeah. It is funny, but it is a lot.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Just go watch it.
So
just go watch the movie. I also liked obviously. YouTube link will be in the description. But
Thomas Flight.
I really enjoyed that video. It's really short, 15 minutes.
You
should watch that too.
And I would also say, like, if you are someone who is interested in getting into this kind of medium, and I just mean like watching things that are not necessarily inherently enjoyable, but are like demand your attention and to be experienced.
Yeah, they're trying to say something rather than just being an entertaining movie.
Yeah, which there's room for both. But like if that's a medium that you're interested, Thomas Flight's really great. Nerdwriter is another one. I'll include 3 YouTubers who I think just do an incredible job of analyzing art, especially like pop art or media. Like, but okay, so I'm not gonna ask a review or rating or whatever. Sure. Maybe one day we'll land something. We still, but like, would you be interested in going deeper into this pathway of movies?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm intrigued. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think that's it. We're gonna that was your review.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
gonna jump into another recommendation. I'm very surprised that you enjoyed it as much as you did.
Oh, really? Okay.
I was like, it's
I
either
mean, there's
gonna
a lot of stuff in there that I really enjoyed. I can't. I don't know why. I can't really imagine someone absolutely hating everything about it, and I can't really imagine someone absolutely loving every second of it. I
Yeah.
feel like it's just so all over the place that
Yeah.
inherently there has to be scenes you love and scenes that are like, whoa.
I
what?
think it just comes down to people starting to watch movies as an experience as opposed to let me just not think about the things that are freaking
Yeah.
out. Which
Yeah.
sometimes it's great to put on
Yeah,
Star
I
Wars
think-
and not think about
Yeah,
anything.
both have their merits. Yeah, definitely.
All right, I'm gonna do a little ad real quick,
Okay.
and I know you just told me it 3 times, but I'm gonna ask again in a second. But okay, I'm gonna say this is our first. This will probably be our first real ad for a
Okay.
second. I do want to just talk about this for a second.
Okay.
So my friend Glenn, who I think you've heard of, if you've listened to this podcast, you've
Hi.
been listening to him for about 30, 40 minutes. In my hand, if you're not watching the video, go watch the video to see what I'm talking about. Glenn does a bunch of different things, including woodworking. 3D printing is the thing I want to talk about right now.
Okay.
So he has an Etsy shop called
3D printed gaming 21.
So I'm gonna put the link down there. If you listen to the Magic the Gathering episode, Glenn is doing this really cool thing where when he gets into a hobby, he'll immediately start to think of 3D printed things that he can make for it.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna say this: this is one of the coolest Commander deck boxes I've seen.
Thanks, man.
And I've watched a lot, and here's what I think is cool about it. It's not leather. It doesn't have like the kind of the nuance, like the
Sure,
things that
the
people are
overly
looking for.
fancy.
But
yeah.
if you're looking for like a really simple, durable case,
Yeah.
like so this is magnets, and you can get different colors. So I have a red, blue deck that I'm running, and they just click together perfectly, and they're amazing. But here's the thing that I really like about it: you can put your commander card on the outside, and then it displays it, and it won't fall out. And I think, like literally, I think that's the coolest thing ever. I got in a hex pattern. You know, this was just a Ryan thing, but maybe hex pattern might be out.
I liked how it turned. I like how it turned out a lot. So
Um,
I might put the hex pattern up in the shop.
But I definitely want to say, just like shout out to Glenn and what he's doing. I know he has some D&D stuff,
Yep.
some
We got
Settlers
some random,
Catan,
some board game stuff in there. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely check it out. And if because I feel like Commander decks are just the most like annoying to store.
They're huge. Yeah.
You know, it's 100 cards, and this fits
Yeah.
100 cards sleeved.
Yep.
So like,
there's an
you're-
unsleeved and a sleeved version, 2 different heights you can get.
So
yeah.
it's perfect. So if that seems like something you would want, check it out. Okay. Man, time for you to recommend me something.
Yeah. So I'm gonna hit you with something more fun. This has been one of my latest obsessions.
Okay.
It's a book.
Okay.
Okay, we're doing a book, which I want to preface. It's a novel.
Can I listen to it?
Yes, it's the audiobook is amazing.
Okay.
So I listened to the audiobook while I read the book, and I loved that for reasons I'll get into. This book, I think I've mentioned this a couple times on the podcast
Yes,
already,
yeah.
but we're finally getting to it. So I would not describe myself as a reader.
Okay.
I don't read very much, especially since I have dyslexia. So I read I read slower than my brain is processing. So my brain is trying to move faster than I'm able to read. So reading is very boring for me to like keep up with. But audiobooks really fix that. Like the audiobook keeps up with how fast my mind is moving.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't really read a novel since like high school, maybe when it was a required reading.
Yeah.
But I saw a TikTok, and I'm sorry, I'm not remembering the name of the TikTok account, but they review books, and this one guy said, "Oh, this book, I read it, and then I started reading 5 books a month, like launched me, and was just reading all the time."
Okay.
So I was like, "Well, if I'm gonna do it, I'm doing this book." So I bought the book, I bought the audiobook, and I went through this book as fast as I could. Absolutely loved it. I'm going to read the whole series. I can't wait. I'm so pumped about this book series.
Okay.
So I also had never heard of this book, and apparently it's been out for over a decade now.
Mm-hmm.
It's an older book. The 5th book in the series is coming out soon, I think.
Okay.
But once I started reading it, suddenly it's all over all my social media. All I'm getting is videos and interviews about this book in the series and the author and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, this book is a fantasy novel fiction that takes place in a totally different world. And it's called The Way of Kings. Have you heard of this book?
I don't think so.
It's by Brandon Sanderson. Never heard this?
No.
Okay. So this is the first book in what is called the Stormlight Archives,
Okay.
which is the series. He also has a really another probably equal or more famous series called Mistborn. Is another series of his books.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, I had never heard of any of these books. I'm not in the reading community, that kind of thing. But then once I read this book, like it's suddenly all anyone's ever talking about.
Yeah. The algorithm got
the algorithm got me. So I read the book and listened to the audiobook. The audiobook is actually done by a couple, a man and a woman, who like switch off chapters reading.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. It's so good. The audiobook is about 50 hours long. Is it? This is an extremely long book. I believe it's over 1,200 pages. So we're going to see how much you can get through in the next 2 weeks, but I think this will be a recurring, we'll have to bring it up down the line when you eventually finish this book. I'm sorry, I'm throwing something so huge at you. But I need you to read this book.
You sentenced me. You gave me a sentence. You said, and you shall spend 30 lifetimes reading this book.
Okay. This is the paperback version. I also have the hardcover. Obviously, I've torn into the spine's all messed up. But yeah, it's like 1225 about pages. So it's a very long book. So I do not expect you.
An audiobook is 50 hours.
The audiobook is about 50 hours,
Okay, so we got...
Run the math.
Let me.
Like I said, I totally do not expect you to get even halfway through this book in the next 2 weeks. It took me like
if I listen to it 5 hours of this book for the next 2 work weeks, even though it's Christmas, I'll make it.
You'll make it. Yeah, that's the other thing. Is like we're coming up on the holidays. We'll see how far you get through.
Yeah.
Really, the key of this book though is there is a prologue to the series.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
Like it sets up a first prologue that sets up the prologue to the series. I read this prologue and I was like, I'm going to hate this book.
Okay.
It was so overwhelming. So much was going on. So many things were being said that I didn't understand or have any context for. I was like, well, that was weird. I guess I'll keep going. And then I read the prologue for this book, the first book, and I was like, I'm going to love every second of this.
Okay.
So I would almost say like maybe just skip the first. Take a look at the book. I would almost say just skip the first prologue and go to the second prologue because that's what really hooked me.
I long for the days before the last desolation, before the heralds abandoned us and the knights radiant turned against us, when there was still magic in Roshar and honor in the hearts of men. There's more. Do you want me to keep going? In the end, not war but victory proved the greatest test. Did our foes see the harder they fought, the fiercer our resistance? Fire and hammer forged a sword. Time, neglect, rust it away. So we won the world, yet lost it. Now there are 4 whom we watch, the surgeon forced to forsake healing and fight in the most brutal war of our time, the assassin who weeps as he kills, the liar who wears her scholar's mantle over a thief's heart, and the prince whose eyes open to the ancient past as his thirst for battle wanes. One of them may redeem us, one of them will destroy us. Ooh.
So yeah, it's very intense fantasy.
Okay. High fantasy, dark fantasy.
What does that mean? What does high fantasy mean?
High fantasy is kind of more, not quite Lord of the Rings, but more like Arthur, kind of like wizards, dragons. It's kind of like there's the good and the bad.
It's got that vibe a little bit, but it's almost got a little more of like a little taste of like D&D in there, maybe a little bit. Game of Thrones is probably a good reference where like you got like some politics between a bunch of people going on.
Okay.
But what I think is really, really cool about this book is it sets up its own like magic system. Like it has its own magic rules, and it's very good.
I feel like the person who I think adores magic systems more than anyone I know is Mike.
Really?
Our friend who plays,
he'll have to read this.
plays D&D with us.
Yeah.
He's always about how does magic work in a world. Like that's his number
he'd
one
be
focus.
all over this then. I'll throw this at him too then.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, this prologue to the book, the second prologue, describes an assassination of a king. And just the description of the whole scene is just so vivid. You're there, you're sucked in, and he just throws you into the magic system. So like magical things are happening, but you understand everything that's happening right off the bat.
Okay.
Even though you don't understand why they're happening.
So Everything Everywhere All at Once is doing the exact opposite of what this is doing. Which is like, and this is in the sense that like all the rules are grounded within the book.
A little bit. Yeah. Like everything is going to make sense. They operate in a way that like isn't like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like he's good at like setting up this system so you understand it, even though like you may not understand some of the terminology or the reasons why things are happening, but like you still understand what is happening, if that makes sense, and like what this magic is doing. Yeah. So that prologue like hooked me. Yeah. So then you read the back of the book where it described I think 4 people. So the book jumps around between these characters in different chapters. So like one chapter will follow this person, and the next chapter will be different, and it kind of jumps around. So you're getting like almost like different books.
And there's 6 of these?
I think the 5th one is coming out soon.
5th one's coming out.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's 4 out, including this one.
Correct. Yes. And I've just read this one. I'm very excited to dive into the next one. I just got the audiobook for the next one. Like it said, you have a surgeon who revokes his gift to heal. You have an assassin, which is the prologue.
Who's a little crybaby.
Yes. You have a prince, and you have a scholar.
Okay.
And these are kind of the 4 main characters that it jumps around to, but they all have like very different like story arcs and like vibes even of each thing that's going on. Like one storyline is very like action war heavy, and you're getting like these battle scenes and stuff like that. And then the scholar version of the story where you're following her is very much like a drama with like some politics going on, and like she's meeting new people and stuff like, and there's like very little action going on. Okay. But like each storyline in itself is like so interesting and intriguing, and like Brandon Sanderson is so good at giving you little bits of information here and there, which this is like, I think I've already talked about this on the podcast, but my number one pet peeve with any sort of story, book, movie, TV show, no matter what it is is I need answers to come at the same rate questions are coming. Yeah. If you start off a story and you're going to give me, let's say, just to throw numbers at it, 10 questions, like major questions that I'm looking for answers for. And then you need to be like, answer question. So there's always like 10 there. Yeah. You know what I mean?
You're getting filled, but you're always a little hungry.
Yes. You can't just throw 10 questions at me and then just 10 more and 10 more. And suddenly I have 100 questions and no answers. I'm done with you. You're just like, I'm not getting anything. And you're just like pulling me along through this thing that's just so confusing. He is so good at like feeding you this information that is just so intriguing, and like in ways where you start to piece things together by yourself, which is so good. Like he's not just handing it to you. He'll just like throw one line in there and you'll be like, wait, what? Yeah. Like that one line means so much, but it was just casually in the middle of a paragraph. That kind of thing. And it's so good. I'm completely hooked on this book series, and I have reached the point where I just need people
to read
I
it so they can talk about
so I
it.
can
get
talk
that,
about
yeah.
it with them. You know, it's driving me nuts. So I literally bought a copy, gave it to my mom. I bought a copy, gave
Oh,
it
there
to
you go.
two of my cousins.
Yep.
I'm just handing out copies of this book because I just need people to read it because it's
Good.
so good. I
so
fell
good.
in love with it right off the bat, and I'm so excited.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
That all said, I'm intrigued to read it.
Mm-hmm.
I have tried to listen to Game of Thrones
Okay.
and listen to Lord of the Rings,
Okay.
which you know I'm a huge fan, and I could not do it.
You couldn't do it.
There's
Okay.
I feel like I'm gonna like it,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a piece of me that, like, I haven't read anything fictional in like a decade,
yeah.
and I'm like,
What-
I'm excited, but I'm also just like, I'm noticing there's this piece of me going like, okay, I'm gonna have to like it's gonna be enjoyable,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm gonna listen to a thing that is not real.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, here we go. I don't know. There's just like I'm noticing a very like
A hesitance there.
not
What is it that like turned you off of listening to like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings?
I think, okay, so maybe this is because it's hard because I like fictional things, but I
Mhm.
think especially getting more into my field and spending more time in it, and then also like, I don't know. I think I think it's harder and harder for me to watch things that didn't happen, like, which, you know, I just suggested a movie that is like
That is
fictional.
the most insane thing
Yeah,
I've ever
exactly.
watched. Yeah.
I don't know. I hesitancy isn't the right word. There's just a piece of me that's like, okay, I'm gonna have to engage with this side of me, and I think it's like to consistently listen to that. But then, like, at the same time, I loved Adventure Zone
Okay.
until they felt like they had plot armor. Then
Sure.
I didn't like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
anymore. Like,
yeah.
you're not playing D&D anymore.
Yeah.
You're just all talking a story.
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I am excited. I'm hopeful.
I will say that the chapters are max an hour.
Okay.
The chapters range from like 15 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
They get all over the place, and they feel, since they jump characters every chapter, it feels like you can really disconnect at any time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I felt like I could easily jump in for an hour and be like, wow, that was really satisfying, and I can put it down and come back to it when I need to. It didn't feel like it was demanding you to keep going all at once, even though I wanted to. I wanted to keep going. But
Okay, so here's the real question.
Yeah.
How much do you feel like I need to listen to before I can come in and have enough to talk about?
That is a very good question. It's so hard to say. Like I said, I was hooked just off the prologue.
Mhm.
So like even just hearing what you think of the
prologue.
prologue is interesting to me, because like I thought it
Yeah.
was so good for a prologue. But I mean, I don't know. I also I can't say like 2 hours because I don't know where that is in the story.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? But like, I think the big hooking stuff really gets going like a quarter of the way through.
Okay.
Which I think is still even a lot to ask in 2 weeks though. Like,
Yeah.
like, I mean, you're talking like 15 hours. That's
Yeah, yeah,
still
yeah.
a lot. But I mean, I would say like,
Is
if
it
you,
on Audible, by the way? Like,
yes,
which-
it's
okay,
it's
cool.
on Audible. Yeah. I picked it up on Audible.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I would say if you can at least get through maybe a couple chapters in each character's
Mm-hmm.
like story arc, so maybe I guess that would be at least like 8 to 12 chapters somewhere in there
Okay.
would be great. Obviously, it's time consuming. I understand you're not going to get and I'm perfectly fine with like, even if you just read the prologue and we talked about that, like I'd be perfectly fine with that.
Okay.
And then like later down the road, if you keep getting through it, then we can
Yeah,
bring it
rec
back and talk
checks.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And check in on it. But yeah, dude, I'm
This
so
is
pumped about this.
this is
book.
what I love about this podcast is like it's stretching us.
Mhm.
And like I have noticed with what was you recommended Cowboy Bebop
Yeah.
before, then
Yeah.
this. I've like not so much with Cowboy Bebop, but like I think there's a hesitancy showing up in me, which just shows that I'm like, no, like I need to, I need to get pushed. I need
gotta
to
push yourself.
I need to stretch, and
Yeah.
just like I'm going to be asking you to watch things that are outside of your comfort zones,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's a huge following behind this book that I wasn't even like really aware of until this point. And I know that like people might be watching this and being like, oh my God, yeah, of course I love this book. Or they might be like, oh, I've never heard of it. And welcome.
So you're saying either people have heard of it or haven't heard of it.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. But I feel like everyone who's heard of it and read it, it's not even it's everyone who's heard of it has read it. You know, like I've never heard of someone saying like, oh, I think I've heard that mentioned before. It's like you either have these deep fans or someone who's never heard of it before.
Yeah, exactly.
But like I said, this series has been going for like over a decade, I think. And there's like I've seen interviews with this author, Brandon Sanderson, where like someone will ask him like, oh, do you ever think like this book has this huge following? Do you ever think it could become a movie? Because like he's really descriptive with the scenery he's doing, and like there's like maps and stuff thrown throughout the book, which is really cool because like you get a visual idea of what he's describing. But he's really good at setting up scenes, and he got asked like, oh, do you ever think this would be a movie? Like, do you think like a studio would pick it up or something like that? And he's like, oh yeah, that I've been approached before. He's like that wouldn't be a problem. And they're like, oh, like, do you think you would have the budget to do everything you wanted to? And he's like, oh, I've been offered some money. Budget would not be a problem either. Like, there's so many people who like want this to be a thing, you know? But because of like the scenery he sets up, he's like not sure that it would translate to a movie properly. Yeah. And he's like, so I don't want to do it if it's not going to translate properly, kind of thing, which I respect a lot. But his other series, Mistborn, I think that's in like closer talks to become a movie series pretty soon. So I kind of want to also hop on that series before it comes out, because I don't want I'd rather read the book first. Which wild that I would ever say that. Like, if you know me at all, I would never say I want to read the book first. Like, I'm not a book person, but yeah, I love this book. I really want as many people to read it as possible and hear what people think, and just to talk about it, because there's so much cool stuff in there.
I'm excited. So I'm excited to read it, and I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah. I hope even if it doesn't hook you right away, you're willing to dive in a little bit. It's super long, but it's so good. Yeah. Okay. If maybe fantasy is hard to follow for you,
I wouldn't say it is.
Okay. But I mean, anyone listening, if you get overwhelmed by like the names of places and stuff like that just feels like, oh, I don't know who that is or what that is. I don't remember this dude's name. Or I would say that I would highly recommend reading it while you're listening to it, because I started reading it and the like names of places felt a little overwhelming. And then I started listening to it and I was like, oh, I'm hearing these names pronounced. Now I can like recognize it. But doing both like really locked everything in place, because now I'm seeing the word and hearing the word. So now I like feel like, oh, I know all these names and places and stuff like that. And it was way easier to digest when you're doing both at once. Okay. I don't know if that's a universal experience, but
no, I think it is.
I found that really nice to do. So I'd recommend that.
Sweet.
Can't wait.
I got no words.
Sweet.
Anything we want to say before we log off of episode 10?
I don't know.
I feel like we should have done something special for episode 10. I don't know why.
10's not that special.
I mean,
it's double digits.
Well, it's going to be 90 more episodes until we go to triple.
That's true. That's an insane I guess just like thank you for everyone who is listening. Obviously we're on Spotify right now, and we've been posting more on YouTube, and I've seen some people watching on YouTube as well, because that's more accessible for people. Obviously, we got video now.
Something that just popped up in my mind that I have not talked to Glenn at all, but I think he'd be down.
Okay.
Would be. I think it'd be cool to like set up some sort of Discord server down the line.
That would be cool.
If people are like interested in that, where there would just be an easier way to communicate to each other.
And like talk about the thing as people are watching and stuff. Like that might be like a nice like centered community versus just like random comments on videos on different platforms. That would be cool.
And I think that's something like, if you're listening to this episode and you got to this part, first off, thank you. Because like we know our audience is small, and like for me, yes, the growth would be great, but again, I think the thing that Glenn and I are both the most excited about the growth is being able to have like a community to talk to, and hear what you guys like, what you didn't like,
and I've
do kind of fun stuff with that.
I've already had like a ton of like friends and family, obviously, that have like reached out and being like, oh, I loved this one thing you recommended, or like I love this one section you talked about, or like someone like came to me and started arguing about our fast food draft.
Wait, they thought
someone was like, well, you can't just say that it's places that all have drive-throughs, because what about malls? There's McDonald's in a mall. They don't have a drive-through. Is McDonald's not fast food anymore?
Technically, I don't think it's a real McDonald's. I think it's like a...
Oh, it's not a real McDonald's now.
Well, because there's a whole thing with like, Starbucks at malls aren't real Starbucks. Like you can't use Starbucks gift cards there.
Oh.
It's a coffee shop that's licensed
Starbucks products. Okay, so maybe I'm in the clear, but yeah,
I think you're good.
I've had people reach out and start arguing about stuff like that, and I love it so much.
I loved the guy. Man, I wish I remembered his name. That commented on one of our YouTube shorts about Star Wars Visions, and it was like you setting it up, and he was like, "Yeah, it wasn't that good." And then I just commented, I was like, "Just wait till the next episode."
Yeah. I mean, I'm just loving that like people are enjoying the things we're sharing, and we get to bring some new stuff into people's lives. It's very fun, and hearing that feedback. So once again, recommendations required at gmail.com. If you want to like send in recommendations, that'd be great.
Yeah. Or just like send us like messages through carrier pigeons. That works too.
That
Smoke
works too.
Signals.
Yep. We'll get them.
Telepathy. Yeah, all that works for us.
I don't need a bunch of voices in my head. Okay.
I got enough in there already.
We'll skip the telepathy.
All right. I'm Ryan. Signing off.
I'm Glenn. Signing off.
All right. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.